Hi, welcome to Ask Dr. Myko. It is Monday night mental health time, and today I thought I would do as a great service by debunking myths that I hear all the time from clients, students, friends, family, everybody about therapy, about counseling, all of that stuff. So, first, I was going to play some games while I did this, but apparently my system does not feel like cooperating. So it's whatever. We're just gonna slide you back here. And it was gonna be awesome too. It was gonna be old school game night. Because I felt like playing some Sega, but whatever. So first, what I would like to do is make sure, there we go. We're just gonna move me over just a smidge. Because I'm also streaming on Instagram so people can see. But it's difficult for people to see me if my picture isn't on screen. So, just making sure. All right, so as far as myths go, if you have your own myths and you feel like having me answer them or debunk them right now, feel free to either DM me on Instagram, Facebook, or Twitter, or you can send a tweet and at me, Myko11 on Twitter, with hashtag Ask Dr. Myko, or just Ask Myko, and I will try my best to debunk and or answer your question. If you're one of those folks that just needs to be heard, feel free to go on my Twitch page and click the link for my Discord and hop in there and say something. And be sure to message me otherwise, because I don't have my headset on right now. So be sure to message so it blinks at me and I'll be like, oh snap, there's people in my Discord that want to talk to me. So that's the thing. So let's see, what is a myth I want to debunk real quick? Like, first off, we're going to move us upward. All right, let's just go ahead and pull up some run-of-the-mills. I'll tell you what, we'll do some myths and I'll answer a question. So let's see. Just random Google searching, 5 myths about therapy debunked. Number 1, my problems aren't serious enough for therapy. Bruh, this always comes in the form of like, nah man, I'm not crazy, I don't need all that, I'm just going through some things, or I just need to get myself together. If you find yourself saying that a lot, you might need some therapy. You know, I'm just going through a really rough patch right now, I just need to focus more on myself. All of those things, reasons, we're not going to call them excuses because that's not strength space. All of those things are obstacles, self-made obstacles, because I mean, if you can get assistance with something, even if it's small, why would you not, right? It doesn't mean that you're weak. It does not mean that you're helpless. It just kind of means that you're smart and using an accessible resource to your advantage. So that's a total myth. Let's see. A therapist will force me to talk about things and discuss things I don't want to talk about. That is also a myth, simply because therapy is about you. It's about, you know, something you want to work on, the vision you have for yourself about how you want, you know, things to either be better or how you want your life to progress a bit more. And so essentially, you are in the pilot seat, contrary to popular belief. This actually touches on another thing about just kind of the relationship, also called the therapeutic relationship between counselor and client, just kind of about their therapy goals, what they want to touch base on, what they want to, taste test for a bit to see if we want to dive into that, or, if you got a hard no about it, that's okay too. So a therapist will not force you to discuss something like, we got 50 minutes, you're not leaving until we talk about it. That's not going to happen. This is especially true about, just people who have delicate symptoms about them. Like if something is so anxiety provoking that the very thought or mention of it is, overwhelming in the moment, we're not going to sit here and put your nose to the grindstone and be like, nope, we're going to talk about it. Nope, we're going to talk about it. Because that's not productive, right? How can we get better if we're constantly, pushed by our symptoms? So no, we don't force you to discuss things. While we may encourage, at least just kind of touching on the area to, just kind of gauge where you're at with it, see how we're feeling about it, see if this is a potential roadblock for whatever goal you're trying to get to or whatever kind of therapy goal you're working on. But other than that, it's completely up to you what you talk about. Because you have to think of it like this too, people with trauma can't just sit there and force them to talk about their traumatic experience over and over. That's rude, that's re-traumatizing, and it's not, caring or empathetic at all. So we'd never force you to talk about anything you wouldn't want to talk about. Now, do I get the occasional person that beats around the bush about something, that tries to be, sly and tries to imply and all that? Absolutely. And I totally call them out on it, because with that, while it's not direct, you're still trying to get me to get you to talk about it. So in a sense, you kind of want to talk about it. So I do call people out on that. Let's see, what's the next one? I can fix my problems on my own. This one is a yes and no myth. Absolutely. Because people are equipped with certain skills, certain coping mechanisms, certain things that they are great at doing. And sometimes that is fixing their problems. However, how they go about it is what can get a bit tricky. Like, give you a whole personal example. I am very particular about how I clean my house, to the point where I don't want anybody to help me, but at the same time, I will complain that nobody helps me. You see how counterproductive that is? Same thing. I can do it myself. Just because you can do it yourself doesn't necessarily mean you can do it yourself and feel okay. Doesn't mean you can do it yourself and not want help. Doesn't mean you can do it yourself and not get help. It's perfectly all right. As far as I'm concerned, you're still doing the work. I don't jump in there and be like, all right, this is how you fix your life. No, it's more so working together to kind of help you see the path that you want, set the path that you want, and, just kind of hold you accountable for what you said you want to do. Therapy is too expensive. Granted, that one is a yes and no myth, simply because capitalism runs the world, and when people need something and people can make money off of it, it's terrible what happens. If it were up to me, therapy would just be, across the board, attached to everyone's insurance, no copay whatsoever, because how can you be a functioning human being if you can't function? That's ridiculous. But that's a personal opinion. Therapy is too expensive. Yes and no. It does depend on where you go. It does depend on what the specialties are. It does depend on the credentials of the therapist and the clinicians there. It does depend on the method. Like there are several online platforms that may be more cost effective because it's like a monthly subscription, whereas other places, your insurance may cover some of it, but you still got like a $50 copay. The other reason why this is yes and no is because some places, often community agencies that are amazing, hardworking, and just as good, don't look down on community agencies, guys. They do offer a sliding fee scale. So a fee scale based on your income. So like, especially if you're a student or if you're, between jobs right now, or if you're furloughed or something like that, just kind of looking at your current income, they can offer fees based on sliding fee scale. On occasion, there is, it could be anywhere between $5 to, just until you get a new form of employment. This one's my favorite. I don't need therapy. My friends are my therapists. That is an unhealthy attachment. While it is great to want to share and be connected with someone or a group of people, we cannot hold them emotionally hostage. We cannot hold them accountable or responsible for every moment and every feeling that we're feeling every second of the day. Like, I get it, that's your bestie, that's your homie, that's your road dog, but you also have to leave room for them to express themselves, which, can fall by the wayside, especially if one person is having a bit more of a difficult time than the other. Um, and that also kind of goes counterproductive against that belief of I don't need help, I can do it by myself. Well, if you are talking to your friends, you are not doing it by yourself. The only difference is too is that friends are not neutral parties. Now, granted, if you can find you some neutral friends that are willing to tell you about yourself in the moment and you won't get offended, good. Keep them around. They're great people, because that also means they probably understand boundaries and can also say, I'm not in the emotional or mental place to help you with this right now. I can't today. And a lot of people don't know that they can say that to their friends. And I ask them, are y'all sure you're all friends then if you don't feel like you can say that to them? But no, just there's something else about just a neutral, like absolutely neutral party, like completely stranger neutral party who is trained in therapeutic relationship, who is trained in counseling theory, who is trained to look at your behaviors, your squirms in your chair, your darting your eyes back and forth, your fidgeting, all of that stuff to, really encompass a huge and whole picture of yourself and your concern. Um, there's just something about that neutral party that's able to do that, where one, we respect it more because I have no reason to lie to this person, or I have nothing to prove to this person. They are literally just a direct reflection of what I'm putting out, and I want to observe that for myself. The other thing with therapists is, we can challenge in a way that is, just settling to your emotional reaction, your mental reaction, and make it connect to things that you may have said before, things that may be recurring patterns and whatnot. And, while friends can pick up on those patterns, it's really hard not to be like, girl, shut up, or boy, you don't know what you're talking about to your friends. But if you are in an engaged therapeutic relationship with, vulnerability, with honesty, with confidentiality, like able to be your full self with somebody who is not allowed to judge you, who is sole purpose is to listen to you and help you piece this stuff together, meaning you could say something 6 sessions ago, and if you say something in the 12th session that reminds me of it, I'm gonna bring it up and ask, how do you think that's connected? Or what, doesn't this seem similar? Because it does sound similar. And if it's not, how is it different? So you do need a therapist. Your friends aren't your therapist. Your friends may even need therapists themselves. And that's it for that myth. Oh, we already blew through those 5? That's amazing. All right, let's see here. 10 common myths about therapy. People who seek psychotherapy are weak, mentally ill, or crazy. And that is complete horseshit, because am I not allowed to feel sad and not enjoy my grieving process if I lose someone close to me? Am I not allowed to have a physical reaction to a traumatic experience that gets triggered often? Am I not allowed to, have any of these mental reactions to things or emotional reactions to things? The answer is absolutely. You are more than obligated and more than entitled to feel how you feel and experience what you experience. And so if you do decide to seek assistance and extra help in psychotherapy, or just, consultation with a clinician, that's okay. You're not weak. In fact, it's a sign of strength that you overcome all these people that are like, oh my gosh, therapy's for crazy people. If you can overcome that, you are stronger already than most people that even talk like that. Mental illness, I don't like the fact that people think it has a negative connotation, because we don't think having the flu or having a cold is a negative connotation. And so that's just not fair. It's not really good wording, and it's just not, it's not conducive to having a strength-based approach to recovery and progress. So that therapists sit behind desks taking notes while you lie on a couch. Only if they are strictly Freudian. Like, I mean, to the T Freudian. I mean, they've got a leather fainting couch and an armchair with a particular leather bound journal. Like, particular, specifically Freudian. That is very rare because, the world has evolved and people don't necessarily like, to be written about in front of their face and not have those notes shared. One of the reasons that I have the approach that I have, which is person-centered therapy. I always start out with person-centered because I never know who's walking through my door, what's important to them, or what they want to work on. Like, they could list something on their paperwork as presenting concern is just had a breakup. Okay. And where we go with that could be anywhere between, this reminds me of a traumatic experience I had. It reminds me of losing my mom. It reminds me, so I am very much person-centered because I like the person to kind of guide where we go, because y'all are the expert in your own lives and you know what you want to do. You may just be having trouble trying to get there. But yeah, not all therapists sit behind desks while you lie on a couch. A lot of times it is just a nice, neat office setup with 2 chairs and maybe a cute little decorative table in the middle with or without some Kleenex. And usually they're about 2 to 3 feet, or 2 to 5 feet apart, simply because there's just something about anywhere between 2 to 5 feet connection with person to person that, is that realm of vulnerability. And I'll give you an everyday example about that. So you ever, easiest example in the world, you're walking through a door and you see somebody coming up behind you that's about 2 to 5 feet away. Do you hold the door open for them? And do you wait if they don't do the quick hustle shuffle thing? Same premise. It's like something about our inner compassion, our inner vulnerability, our inner personhood to be connected wants us to help that person or wants to be genuine with that person. And it's kind of the same premise. It's like also, walking down the sidewalk. I mean, when we used to walk within 2 feet distance of each other, walking down the sidewalk in like that 2-foot rule. If I pass by someone and, I'm close enough to speak, I speak. I say good morning, I say good afternoon, I say something, even if I don't know them, because it is just something about acknowledging someone else's humanity, acknowledging someone else's personhood. So, not all therapists sit behind desks. The only time I sit behind a desk is if I'm doing your intake paperwork. And that's just to, make sure everything's in order so that we can actually get down to the gritty business. And typically that only takes about half the session. And the other half, I walk around there and I'm like, so, what's up? Let's see. Ooh, this myth right here, bruh. Psychotherapists and clients become best friends. This is a lie. Your therapist is not your friend. In fact, under my licensure, which is a licensed clinical mental health counselor, that is a dual relationship. I am not allowed to be your friend. So all of my lovelies that are on my social media that are actual friends in real life that ask, "Ooh, can you be my therapist? How much do you charge?" I unfortunately, legally and ethically cannot be your therapist because we are already friends, and therapists and clients should not be friends. Dual relationships lead to a lot of just complicated things that should never be. You ever watch those movies and the couple is going to a marriage counselor and then they fall apart and find out that the husband or the wife is having an affair with the counselor? That's a dual relationship and that should never be. But no, therapists and clients don't become friends. In fact, it's more of a confidant relationship without the emotional attachment. So it's like a place where you can go to this office and this is the environment in which I feel safe enough to be vulnerable. This is the space that I do that in, especially if I don't have any place outside of here to do that. Because we have someone to listen to us and to make the effort to understand us, again, which is why friends can't be therapists, because they have their own opinions about you and how your life should be. Because they're trying to understand us legitimately and genuinely, we can't be your friend, because at that point, I know everything about you. I know what your weaknesses are. I know I know how to manipulate you. And that's not something we should give up power to other people. Luckily for us, therapists and counselors are bound by an ethical code of do no harm and, non-maleficence. So all that stuff. And, do only good, beneficence. So we can't be friends, even though that is the most common thing, especially right now, because people have been isolated and whatnot. People just need some social outlet. People just need someone to talk to. And that's not necessarily what your therapist is for. I'm not saying every session has to be a working session where you're, doing some hardcore work on yourself, but every session can't be, girl, let me tell you about such and such. How was your weekend? Blah blah. Like, you can ask your therapist how they're doing in a individual, calm, broad way, and then leave it. But we're not besties. We don't need to talk about work. We're here to talk about you, your difficulties, and what is going on with that. The population I tend to work with the most is college age, because I just love that population simply because they're bright-eyed, they're bushy-tailed, they're learning about the world, they're finding themselves, they're developing their identity. Ugh, I love them. Some things can get a little ridiculous because, they're in a developmental stage also where you have to kind of explain and teach them things too. So that's also what I like because I also like to teach. Um, but a lot of them have social skills difficulties because, I mean, if you think about it, my generation, we grew up when the internet was created. Their generation and the generations after literally grew up with a tablet and a smartphone in their hand, which means that's how I talk to people, which means I hide behind a keyboard and talk to people, which means I don't know how to call people. I don't know how to call to make the doctor's appointment. I don't know how to tell my friend they hurt my feelings. I don't know how to tell my friend I don't even think we're really friends. Not verbally, not communicative exchange, anything like that. So that becomes really difficult because then when they get to therapy, while they can, notice that they have a social skills issue, um, they want to make friends with their therapist instead of taking skills and learning skills from the therapist to take outside to make friends that way. So therapists and clients aren't friends, and they should never be. Oh, psychotherapy is mostly just talk. If you want to look at it at face value, absolutely. We're talking. But the difference between that and working in therapy is not only are you saying something, we are picking apart, we are analyzing, we are evaluating, we are rearranging, we are digging for deeper meaning, and a lot of times we are also challenging some of these things. So like if someone comes up to me and tells me, I keep having these spiraling thoughts, I'm anxious, and I'm a bad person, they make me feel bad about myself, blah 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 blah. We can either sit there for 5 sessions and I hear you say the same thing, and we just talk about it, or we can pick those thoughts apart. Well, what kinds of thoughts are there? Is there an overarching theme to these thoughts? Is there, something underlying that makes you feel this way? Are there certain situations that trigger these? So notice that it takes it from one sentence to a map of various things that need to be looked at, rearranged, and touched on. So other forms of therapy, like cognitive behavioral therapy, there are things that are helpful, like dialectical behavior therapy. There are workbooks, there are exercises that kind of help people, practice, because some, people are different types of learners. So there are some things that are more than just talk. It's active practice of a skill. And so, yeah, it's not all talk. It is mostly work. Psychotherapists have ready-made solutions for all of life's problems. Sweetie, if I had all the solutions, I probably wouldn't be a therapist. Like, for real. And that also touches base on, well, what exactly do therapists and counselors do? Do they give me advice and tell me how to fix my life? Absolutely not. You remember how I just said you are the expert in your life? You are, which means I can't possibly tell you what to do that's going to fix you. Absolutely not. I'm not you. The second you leave my office, we are two separate people. You live your life, I live mine. Also, with that, what are hard no's for you. You know what are timid yeses for you. You know what feels awkward, what feels challenging, and what doesn't. I don't. I can't sit here and just say, oh, well, if you're afraid of flying, just book a flight. You'll be fine. That's ridiculous. That's absurd. That's, just not very empathetic at all. It's not very nice. But, to sit here and give advice like, well, you should do this and you should do that, and it doesn't work out, who learns something and who gets blamed? No one learned anything. and then the therapist gets blamed. It's not about trying to fix you. It's trying to help you find what what it is you're looking for and how you want to get there. Hi, Ron. Let's see. Ooh, this is a good one. Psychotherapists blame a client's problem on their upbringing. Yes and no. One, blame should never be assigned to anything because that's not productive. While it can be acknowledged, what happened can be acknowledged, what connections can be acknowledged, doesn't necessarily mean blame should be tolerated. We can't just put off something on someone else and be like, you did this and it's your fault and I'm going to be mad forever, because that's counterproductive and drains a lot of energy. But no, when I say yes and no, I say upbringing is important for some things, especially when it comes to learned behaviors, when it comes to repeating patterns in relationships or relationships with, intimate partners or romantic relationships. Those are things that we do learn from childhood experiences. Those are things that, we learn and pick up along the way and just continue doing until what we're doing no longer serves us. Case in point, another personal example. When I was growing up, my mother liked a spotless house. See, once again, it goes back to cleaning. Clearly, I've got problems. I'm just kidding. My mother liked a clean house, and on most days, it was my job to keep the house clean while she was at work and my sisters were at work. I was a kid at the time, so it's just like, I'm at home. Go back to sleep, pupper. Apparently, he doesn't like the cleaning story. You're okay, bud? Hey, chill. Pat. Hey, you're okay. Go back to sleep. Anyway, where was I? Oh, but yeah, the cleaning thing. So I was basically Cinderella growing up. And with that, I would get up early in the morning. I'd clean the whole house. And then I'd wait for them to come home, which usually resulted in them destroying the house again and starting all over the next day. And so I began to have, just kind of rules and things in my head that began to develop. Just like, well, I'm the only person that knows how to keep this house clean. I'm the only person that knows how to clean this way. I'm the only person that I can rely on to not dirty up the house. And that can spread into a whole gamut of things. Hence, number one, like we just talked about earlier, I don't like anyone to help me clean, but complain about people helping me clean. Two, I am the only one that knows how to do can translate to a lot of things in life, right? Like, I don't trust people. I can't depend on people. I can't ask people for help, things like that. So again, that's why it's also important to just kind of break down these thoughts and these underlying rules. So while we don't blame all problems on upbringing, it does play a role, because once we grow up, if we grow up in a family, it doesn't matter who's there, what's there, our root upbringing, our root start is where we learn to do a lot of things, where we learn how to interact with people, where we learn how to socialize, how to, rely on others or not. And, we take those things into adulthood if they don't, get fixed right away. Psychotherapists can prescribe medication. Absolutely not. Absolutely not true. Oh my gosh, no. If I had known what I know now before I went to my master's, I would have also become a psychiatric nurse, because that would have been amazing. But no, psychotherapists, therapists, counselors, social workers, we cannot prescribe medication. While we can encourage it, just kind of depending on what symptoms we're seeing and severity. And we have some baseline and general knowledge of certain medications and what they do, we cannot prescribe. Okay. I actually used to be an anti-meds counselor in my young, naive days, until I actually started, seeing a bit more difficult clients with more severe symptoms and cases. And I was like, all right, maybe there's something to this medicine thing, because for some people, there literally is a chemical imbalance. For other people, there is, the placebo effect. And for others, it is just a matter of having something. It's like training wheels for life, and that's okay. Like, I used to totally look down like, ugh, I'll never encourage people to go get medication. That's terrible. People can do it. I believe in people, but sometimes people need extra help. I enjoy talking to people about medication assisted therapy, especially when it comes to depression, anxiety, post traumatic stress, as well as recovery services like medication assisted recovery, like Suboxone and all that stuff. I totally believe in it because there's just something, we're just a big bundle of wires, chemicals, and liquid. Sometimes we need to be rewired. Sometimes our chemicals are unbalanced. And sometimes, we just need that extra kick to help us function. Um, Small sidebar, myths about medication. The only thing as a therapist that really stands out to me about people and their views on medication is they only get their views from other people. And it's like, so you've never tried medication for yourself? No, but my uncle tried it and he didn't like it, so I don't think it's a good thing. Okay, I need you to form your own opinion, do your own research. I mean, granted, I know I'm sitting here telling you about it, but that's part of it. Doing your own research. Prove me wrong if you want to. I don't care. Just look it up, look into it. If you are considering medication for anything, even if it's not mental health related, really look into it, do some research about it. Especially when it comes to psychotropic meds or mental health medication. Another common thing about meds that people are afraid of is like, I don't want to be a different person. I don't want to be a zombie, this, that, and the other. Again, things that, one, they may have seen from other people or siblings or people close to them, or two, something they may have experienced with trying just one medication. Medication is trial and error. I wish it were a more exact science. I wish it were a more precise science. But as much as we've got down is figuring out symptoms, figuring out severity, and linking that with a medication that is known to work for that. And then playing with the dosage per person because people are unique. And then seeing what side effects are there and potentially prescribing that or changing the medication altogether. So while I can't promise you won't end up different or end up a zombie, you should really still give it a shot because ending up different is kind of the goal anyway. Because if you're not doing so hot, maybe this will help you. The other one that's most common is I don't want to become dependent on a medication. Well, people that have sight issues don't want to be dependent on glasses or contacts. Diabetics don't want to be dependent on artificial insulin. People that are amputees don't want to be dependent on wheelchairs or, prosthetics. So, you really kind of have to think about your perspective on what that means for you. So if to be dependent means, oh my gosh, I'm going to turn into an addict and I need it every day, highly unlikely that's going to happen, especially if you are involved with your medication process with your prescribing physician. And with that, actually talking to them. So not necessarily showing up to the doctor's office and thinking doctor knows best, but actually talking, saying, I am concerned about this side effect, this, thing, this attachment of my personality. I'm concerned about, addiction. I'm concerned about all that. All of that stuff is useful information for your prescribing physician, because then they can say, okay, now that helps me narrow down the medications. This one is non-habit forming. Let me sit here and pitch this one to you and see how you feel about that. So the other thing about medication is talking to your primary care physician, learning about what you need, taking notice. If you do decide to try the medication, taking notice of how it makes you feel, whether you feel like it's working, whether you feel like it's not. If it could be better, all of that stuff is useful information for your prescribing physician. Going back again to, I don't want to become dependent on it. There's nothing written in stone that says you have to be on this medication forever. In fact, that's why most prescribing physicians talk about, they definitely prescribe the medication, obviously, but they also encourage supplemental talk therapy to go with it, because one thing can make you feel good, another thing can make you feel great, but together you've got a giant huggable blanket that wraps around you and helps you get yourself sorted out like you want. And again, you may not have to be on that medication forever. You may, eventually lower your dosage once you get some nice coping skills that are effective and can just take as needed. I like to explain it like they're training wheels, right? Because when we start working on some of our symptoms and our problems and trying to create healthier coping skills and behaviors, oftentimes our symptoms get in the way. It's kind of like a catch-22. It's awful. So with the medication, we put training wheels on so that the symptoms are like, okay, I'll go over there real quick. I'm going to practice these skills. I'm going to strengthen these skills. I'm going to make them consistent. And then I'm going to talk to my physician about potentially, weaning me off my meds just to see if my coping skills can weather the storm without them. So there's that. Psychotherapy can solve problems in 1 or 2 sessions. Yes and no. Yes and no. Sometimes I do what I like to call consultations. Take a very solution-focused theoretic approach, meaning we are not necessarily focused on, well, how do we get to this problem? What, were the steps we took to get here? We're mostly focusing on the steps to get us out of here and where we want to be. So we're very much present focused and, troubleshooting things and trying things to see if that fixes it without, kind of going in depth for deeper meaning. So 1 or 2 sessions of solution focus, depending on the issue. Yes, that's true, but solving problems in general, no. Especially if they're deep rooted, no. No. So like an example of a solution focused thing could be work-life balance stuff. I feel like I don't have enough time for me. I feel like I am running out of space in my calendar. I feel like I'm overcommitted, I'm overbooked. All right, that we can work with because that has nothing to do with, well, while it could, this has nothing relevant and present to do with fixing your problem. So, being, it's like, I've always been a busy person. I'm always multitasking. I've always been a multitasker, and that's been praised. Sure, that may be having an effect on how you think about it, but right here, right now, if your goal is to balance out this stuff, then we are working on balancing it out. All right. Psychotherapists believe that personality is cemented by age 5. Boo, that's trash. Absolutely not. Because if I had the personality I had when I was 5, I'd still be walking around here with snot in my nose and eating popcorn at 6 a.m. That's not true. Your personality is not cemented by age 5. In fact, your personality tends to, be a bit more flexible depending on who we're with, how we choose to express ourselves, and what becomes important and valued to us as we age and develop. Like, oh gosh, elementary school Myko, bright-eyed, bushy-tailed, excited, wanted to make all the friends. Middle school Myko, timid, could only do the thing if other friends were too anxious to do the thing. Otherwise, just not very noticeable and lost in books and academic achievement. High school Myko, oh my God, I barely even remember her, to be honest. She was dark, she was angry, and, she was moody. So I can't possibly believe that those who develop our, values change, our beliefs change, which shape who we want to be as people, which shape our personality. All right, let's see. This one is my all-time favorite, and I am so happy to end on it. Psychotherapists make clients feel immediately better after each session. That's adorable. That is so cute and so hopeful, and I just love people for it. So with that, my master's program teacher, so when I got my actual degree to get my license as a therapist, my favorite quote that he has ever said to me and my classmates at that time was that counseling is not it's not rainbows, it's not butterflies, it's gory, it's gross. We rip people open, we show them their insides, and then tell them, all right, now let's try to put this back together the right way. Best quote ever. Best quote ever. Because as I was going through my program, and this probably says something about me, I noticed, when we were doing our little practicing skills and practice sessions and whatnot, I thoroughly enjoy playing mental chess with people, especially people that say they want help, but are very resistant to it in therapy. It's like mental chess. It's like, okay, You're going to say this, cool. I'm going to say that. And then you're going to say this, and I'm going to pull this forward and, just kind of knock that out of the way because these are your own words going up against your own words. So, boom, check, I win. It's because we are so good at talking ourselves out of things. We are so good at talking ourselves into things. We're so good at defending ourselves. We're so good at not defending ourselves. Like, we are amazing, complicated enigmas. And there's no way you're going to gauge that you feel a certain way after digging through all that and, ripping things out and looking at them and shoving them back and rearranging stuff. In case you've ever noticed, rearranging organs hurts, setting bones hurts. So it's really no different. It's really no different. So no, you're not going to feel immediately better because that's a problem kind of with people and therapy as well. They think it's instant gratification and it's really not. It's a lot of long-term work. It's a lot of small changes. If done consistently, it can lead to a lot of long-term effects, but it's not instant. And so if we have to sit here and talk about how, your negative behavior pattern is getting in your way and that hurts to talk about, you're going to cry, you're going to be angry, you're going to feel resentment, you're going to storm out of my office, but you're going to think about it for the rest of the week. And once you think about it and once you stay there, did I really? Oh man, that's different. I don't know what to tell you. But once you think about it and once you, so I did, look at that. Once you think about it and once you, let it sink in for the week, it's really going to make you puzzle and puzzle until your puzzler is sore. And then you're probably going to make another appointment and come back for some more. Huh. Download error. What? That's crazy. Let me refresh that page to see. Oh, it does say I'm offline everywhere. What? And now I'm back online for Periscope, but everything else is kicked off. That's craziness, man. Crazy. Therapy does, in fact, help communication. Yes, it does. Therapy totally helps communication, especially because for some people, if the one-to-one individual conversation is a bit more helpful, especially if it's a helpful baby stepping conversation. So it's like, okay, I'm noticing you're getting nervous here. What's going on for you in the moment as you're trying to express to me what you're trying to express? It's like it's a more calculated and open, vulnerable state that we're trying to help you learn to do something different. But yeah, communication definitely is helpful. I mean, therapy is helpful for communication, especially when it comes to with other people, interpersonal effectiveness with other people, relationships, definitely. I also do couples therapy, and that's the number one thing I really harp on, especially because in relationships or in friendships, we are listening to whoever talked to us, but translating it with our ears instead of their ears. Meaning, if I walk over to my partner and say, I can't stand you, I know I'm being funny because I know I'm being sarcastic. But if my partner genuinely says, oh my God, they can't stand me. Oh my gosh, they don't love me anymore. It sends them into a downward spiral. Because while I heard something funny, they did not. So communication is pretty key in any type of interaction, and therapy can help with that. What about people who can't seem to handle differences of opinion? Is that a condition? Yeah, it's called being an asshole. I'm just kidding. No, with that, again, it's really about perspective and intention with that potential with that part. People can have differences in opinion. Like, for instance, my 13-year-old Chihuahua, who is under the desk right now resting, just had surgery again for the second time. Costs a pretty penny for dogs to have surgery, and he's a pretty old dog to spend $3,000 on. While my heart is like, whatever it takes here, save my baby. My partner is like, that's ridiculous. You should just put him down. Oh my God. While we completely disagree, we both sat down the first surgery and said, okay, He's really old. Do you really feel comfortable spending that much money and not knowing how much longer he has, so on and so forth? How are finances? Are you okay with this amount? Are you not? Are you just kind of feeling guilty because you feel you owe it to him? He really kind of sat me down and walked me through all that. And, I could have just been in my feelings like, oh my God, what are you talking about? Why do you hate me and my dog? Or I could have listened, I could have understood, and then offered my perspective. Now, even though we didn't agree, which is why the money came out of my savings and not our savings, we can still understand each other, validate, and keep it pushing. What about shutting people out over one disagreement? That to me screams very rigid boundaries and emotional protection, as well as just kind of poor communication and poor empathy. Um, so with shutting people out, like the cutting people off movement is something I could not stand when it became brand new. Like, oh my God, and now it's cancel culture. And I'm just like, oh my gosh, guys, let's be grown-ups. But the cut people off movement was definitely something that I disliked a whole lot about people, because you draw a line in the sand, but you don't ever give people a chance to examine it. You don't let them, whatever, anything they do once you draw it is war. And so instead of talking out, hey, it really bothers me when you do this, or hey, I don't like the way you approach me about this, or hey, I don't really disagree with your opinion on this. We are angry, we are emotional, and we just cut people off. I do not understand that. I am a person that likes to talk it out, whether you like me or not. For me, it's a respect thing too. Just personally, it's a respect thing. If you are willing to share your opinion with me, you should also allow me to share my opinion with you, especially if we're face to face, because the land of the internet is a whole different category. Let's be real about that. But at the same time, I'm a bleeding heart in like human connectedness and understanding each other. So that's all of that. I guess the way you look at it is, well, if I was you, would I do it? If it was you, I would do it. Okay. I mean, people block you and cut off over smallest things. Yep. And want boundaries for them, but you have no say so in what you want. Yeah, one-way friendships are absolutely not friendships. There is, like I mentioned before, rigid boundaries are a thing, but those aren't necessarily healthy boundaries, okay? Rigid boundaries are those walls we build up to protect ourselves emotionally, so that we are not hurt by opinions, we are not hurt by what people think, which, is kind of connected to self-confidence, self-worth, self-esteem issues. Whole nother segment. But you're absolutely right. These rigid friendships, if I am able to say something to you, I feel personally that you should be able to say something to me. Like, I can't sit here and tell people about themselves and not allow people to tell me about myself. Like, that's ridiculous. That's ridiculous. That doesn't help me grow at all as a person. Especially if the way they're approaching it is civil, is empathetic, is in a way meant to educate me in the most nurturing way possible, as opposed to, well, you're doing stupid shit and you need to stop it. That's not helpful. That's emotionally charged. It's emotionally charged language, and it's very pointed. If it was you was referring to, oh yeah, exactly. So, and I mean, I got a lot of puppers and animals, man. I've already decided I'm probably not having kids because animals are expensive, and I have a lot. So, but yeah, so one-way friendships are not friendships, especially if you are able to do something and I cannot reciprocate, or I'm able to do something and you can't reciprocate, unless it has been, explicitly talked about. It's like, yeah, that's cool if you do that. Well, I usually don't do that, so I probably won't, but thanks for the offer. That's different. Any other questions? No? Yes, maybe so. Let me see something real quick here. Oop. But I do believe that is my time. I do need to go and work out for the rest of the day. Yes, maybe so. Um, but yeah, I will be back next I think it's next Monday, 8:30. I will probably be doing another segment. So if there is a concept or anything that anyone would like to submit, ask about, feel free to DM me on Twitter, Instagram, or my Facebook dashboard, or jump on my Discord. You can get through that through my Twitch information and submit some mental health Q&A, or jump in the voice chat there to talk to me in person. So with that being said, I guess I'm gonna bid you adieu. What's today? Today is Monday, isn't it? Hot. Alright, that's my time. Bye. I said bye. Terrible. Terrible.